V2 decks you have here, 300K TVL, and the V3 locked up 14 million.
Yeah, Dynamo has been doing very well.
What do you think? I remember you talking about 9am a while back, and why? Maybe you just start with why is V3 liquidity on PulseChain important? What does it enable versus V2? Like, what can't you do?
Yeah, no, it's really great that we have it on PulseChain. If you click that M button right where volume is, you also see like month by month the volume has just been trending up. Yeah, and like April's not even over, and there's already more TVL in April than in March, which is pretty dope.
That's a good chart.
Yeah, but what was your question? Why is V3 good for PulseChain? Well, we have more liquidity options, man, versus just like V2 and Balancer. So you get concentrated liquidity now, which means instead of putting all your coins in a range between 0 and infinity, or multiple coins with Balancer, the PHUX decks from 0 to infinity, you can now place them in a discrete range between two defined prices. And so that creates more efficient order execution for the users, and it gets more liquidity out there on the ecosystem, which is great. And it allows people different mechanisms for their crypto, whether it's making passive income, buying tokens or selling tokens. Like all of those options are now available via liquidity providing in a much more efficient manner because we have a V3 DEX.
So V2 versus V3, so you get the symmetrical liquidity versus concentrated in a way too. Like how does that enable for users and for the market? I guess what are the advantages in using V3 versus V2 as a user, and then for the market, how does the market benefit?
Yeah. Well, for the user, it's really beneficial because they can, one, buy or sell a position via liquidity. So instead of having to market buy or market sell, they can kind of set up a range above or below the price. And when price gets into that range, they'll automatically be moving from the token they put in to the other token. And so depending on what you put in would be if you're buying or selling.
And on V2, just to parallel that with V2, you could do that in V2, but you'd have to it'd be across the entire range. You have to wait longer. You'd have to wait for a bigger run up or run down.
Longer, it's slower, and you'll never get 100% out of one token into another with V2. With V3, you can be 100% into one, and then if the price moves through your range, like it starts below, and then you put a liquidity cushion above the price, and the price goes above your range, you move completely from the token you put in to the other token in the pair, which is great. And Red Squirrel brings up a good point in the chat. So you can still do full range with V3, which I really like a lot, because the fee structure on V2 and V3 is different in terms of how it's paid to the liquidity provider. In V2, the fees are auto-compounded back into the pool. With V3, they're sequestered, and you can harvest them without having to end the position. So it's a lot easier to keep track of fees and like the income you're making. But for the market, why it's really good is because at the ranges where there's a higher amount of liquidity due to people providing V3, the order execution is better. So I think a really good example of this is stablecoins, where, assuming everything's good with the stablecoin and they're not depegging, like let's say we have like let's use PulseChain tokens, CST and liquid loans, for example, USDL or EARN, PXDC. You have two of these coins paired in a liquidity pool together. In a V2 system, they're spread from 0 to infinity. So technically there are coins being provided at like when one is worth 1 million versus it would take 1 million tokens to buy one of the other token, and vice versa in the other way. Well, stable coins, that's not really efficient, right? Because at most they're going to trade between like 99 cents and $1.01, assuming all of the redemption mechanisms and they're supposed to be pegged. And so you have all this liquidity placed. Let's say you have $100 million of liquidity. Maybe there's only like $1 million in the range where actual trading is going to occur. So there's just worse order execution and a lot of wasted liquidity that is never actually being used to trade. And so with V3, you can take all that $100 million, place it between 99 cents and $1.01. Now all $100 million are actively being used to trade. And so that's a really good example of how like V3 provides a service to the market by providing more coins for people to trade at desirable prices.
So I noticed a couple of the V3 dexes I've been to, I didn't see farms. Is it just is it that's just a platform thing, or is just farming it's easier to do on V2, or
Farming is typically a V2 type of income stream, and that's because like it's a lot easier, right? So when you have an LP position on V2, your receipt for that position is a PRC20 or a token. And because all the tokens are all distributed from 0 to infinity, when you put money in, the tokens you get out, the LP tokens that you get is your representation of the pool. And so each token is worth the exact same amount of the pool. And the amount of the pool that you own is just determined by how many of those coins that you have. With V3, this isn't possible to do it with a token because people own liquidity at different ranges, right? So say the price of a token is $1 and somebody has tokens out at $10 to $20. And then one person has all of the liquidity between like at that dollar range, right? Well, they shouldn't have an equal amount of the pool because they put in different amount of money at different places, right? It's not equally distributed everywhere. So a token, like the person who put money above the price shouldn't have rights to the liquidity at the current price because they've defined it to be at a higher price rate than what it's at now. And that's why V3 positions are represented by NFTs instead, because those can track the data necessary for the tokens placed into the liquidity pool and can be basically you can set the metadata with enough variables so that it keeps track of where all the stuff is and everybody's entitled to what they put in.
And it just makes me think of too burning liquidity. For people to talk about for to setting a position, and then I get, would you just send the tokens or the NFTs to a burn address, and then
you send it to a dead address like the 0x0001. But you can do the same for V3 too, just send the NFT there. Like that part isn't different. The part for farming that's different is that it's a lot easier to keep track of how much rewards people get and to keep track of like how much someone has of the liquidity pool in a smart contract, because every token is the same. So it's the only variable you have to look at is how many tokens has this wallet distributed. If you're trying to farm on V3, that's a little more complicated because not only do you need to keep track of how much liquidity people are playing with, but you need to, one, keep track of NFTs, not tokens. So it's not like a simple ratio. You also need to keep track of which positions are in the money and which ones are not in the money, the percentage they're in the money, et cetera, et cetera. So it's just much more complicated, and it just doesn't seem worth it when you can just have all the incentivized farms on a V2 system. And V3, the only incentive is the fees that you earn. But you can earn a higher percentage of fees because of the liquidity being concentrated. So the amount of fees you can earn is a lot higher, or has the potential to be higher.
So why would people use V2? Like, I guess you made a couple examples. Why would you want to use V2 over V3? Like different versus new coins versus, anything. Like what are the things that people are trying to optimize for using one over the other for a new launch, for example?
So the V3 has a lot of advantages, but in of itself, if you only use the concentrated liquidity mechanisms, that would provide some problems, especially if you're like a token founder, for example. And so if you're trying to found a token or bootstrap a token for a protocol or a meme coin, whatever it might be, there's a lot of advantage to having coins be on the market at every single price that could exist, right? Because you want your thing to go up for as long as possible. So if you have a concentrated liquidity as the main liquidity position of that, if you only have concentrated liquidity and not any V2 liquidity, then at some point there are no coins for people to be able to trade above and below a certain price range. And so you've capped your token can only go so high, and your token can only go so low, because price is a function of the ratio of the tokens in the pool. And if there are no tokens to be traded with, then the price literally cannot go higher. Like, it's just not possible. This is not a situation that ever actually exists, but like theoretically, that's kind of what it means. Theoretically, that's what's happening. So by setting a good amount of the initial liquidity in V2, you know that there's always coins to be traded at every single price. There might be a lot of slippage, there might be a lot of volatility, but price can trade from 0 to infinity.
Gotcha. I just want to go to a pair to.
And for other people, like the individual, maybe they don't want to do a concentrated position. They just want to have their LP in there forever and just earn those kind of fees on like a full range V3 position. There's also strategies to use V2 as an income source as well for more long-term positions.
That's what I was thinking. Like, it seems like V2 would be one of the things. If you want to provide liquidity, you didn't care like about the volatility or that maybe the assets, you think they're going to run together or whatever, you're going to leave it in for a long time, just sit it and forget it type of thing. V2 sounds like the place where, okay, I could just provide liquidity, forget about it, come back later before I have more coins and price will be up and all that stuff. V3 seems like much more, I need to manage, like if it goes out of range, I'm not earning fees anymore. And well, what range do I think it's going to stay in? A lot more, I guess, maintenance on that side. Is that one of the the things?
Well, it has the potential to have a lot more maintenance, especially if you're trying to maximize certain things like fees and income. But V3 positions can be just as hands off as V2 positions. Like there's nothing stopping you from walking away from the computer and not paying attention to it. But if you have a certain goal like buying or selling, then you'd want to pull the position when the impermanent loss works out in your favor.
Just trying to get this website to hopefully it'll load because I wanted to look at some of the, here we go. So for example, a bunch of different coins here. I just want to click on WPLS DAI and look at when you're going to add liquidity, what does it actually look like in the options and stuff. Mm-hmm. And just talking about burn liquidity real quick too. Like, what is the strategy in burning liquidity? Like, why would you? I guess what would people get out of doing that for projects? Like, what does it mean to the user, and what does it mean to? Is it part of the tokenomics? Like, how does it factor in?
Yeah, so I think a good thing to start with is describing like what a rug pull is, like the scam of a rug pull. And that's when somebody prices a bunch of liquidity in the pool at the beginning. People buy up the token, and so that, let's say that's it's like some meme coin versus Pulse. They put the meme coin in Pulse, and people are buying the meme coin. Pulse is going into the pool, so the person who set that position is earning Pulse from that coin that they set the liquidity position in. And let's assume that's like the majority of the liquidity is in that one position. Well, if they remove that liquidity, then all that Pulse that was put in gets removed from the market, and the person who started the position owns all of it, and now there's no liquidity to be there at all. So there's very little coins to trade. It could go from, like, say there's $1 million of LP to like $3,000 for whatever reason. So all of the liquidity, all the backing value has been taken away from that coin, and people who bought it up are just left holding a token where there's no real liquidity to be able to exit. There are no coins to sell into, or there's no coins to sell for. Very little, like if you sold, you would just send the price down to zero, which is what happens because people are like, oh, they rugged, let me just get what I can out, and the price goes like basically to zero. When you burn liquidity, you are basically saying, hey, these tokens are in a liquidity pool, and the receipt to redeem those tokens no longer exists. So when you participate in this ecosystem, or when you participate in this token, you know for a fact that there's going to at least be some baseline liquidity that exists. So essentially a rug in that sense can't happen from the team. Now there are ways that they can still do it, but if you're buying Pulse and putting Pulse into that liquidity pool, that position can't pull that Pulse out without selling a token. They have to sell a token to get the Pulse out instead of pulling the position and getting that Pulse out, for example.
Gotcha. Just want to go through the interface here too. So on this one, so we got 0, so different fee tiers and stuff, 90%. So why, and I see most of them are like 1% on here. Why is this one, for example, 92% people pick the 0.25%?
Yeah, so those are the fees associated with trades on that given pool. So every trade in the 1%, 1% of the trade gets paid to the LPers, 0.25% the same, 0.05, 0.01. So with the fees, what you're saying is like, hey, like I'm providing these coins to the market to trade, but if you're in the 1% pair, you're like, if you want to trade with my tokens, like it's going to cost you more money to get access to my liquidity. The lower it is, that's like, hey, like I'm providing liquidity and it's very, very cheap to use. So for something like Wrap, Pulse, and DAI, that's a pair that usually pairs Pulse with tokens that are really popular, like PulseChain, ETH, BTC, whatever it might be, that are paired with stable coins that has a lower percent fee tier because it's making it easier for people to trade into and out of. It's a very popular pair. People are trading Pulse for DAI a lot. And so they're making the barrier to entry low to be able to get access to that pool. Stable coins usually have a very low percent fee, like the 0.01 or the 0.05. More exotic pairs, say like a meme coin with Pulse, those usually go to like 1%, or like exotic pairs of like two meme coins together. Those are usually going to like the 1% pool. So it's like more exotic, usually typically the higher fees, and then the more like stable pools, like those are on the lower end typically.
Okay.
Yeah.
And
And the
then
way the routers work, the in-house routers as well as the DEX aggregators, they're going to go through the lower tier fee tiers first, because you're getting a better deal by putting your money through there. So it's only when it moves out of range for that position will it go up to the next pool. So there's a bunch of LP, like in this one, the 0.25%, and you put LP in the 1%. Well, your coins may not be used for liquidity as often as the 0.25% tier. So even though you're charging a premium for your tokens, because very little volume is going through it, you're not really earning that many fees. Versus the 0.25%, they're getting a smaller cut of each trade, but because more trades are going through it, they're getting at the end more money.
So the lower tier, more volume but less fees per transaction, but maybe more volume could make up for it.
Yeah, exactly.
So I just typed in 1 million pulse here, and by default, it's asking for 75 DAI, and then we have ranges and stuff here. So, and the APR up here as well. So if you adjust the ranges, you can adjust them closer. So why, when you adjust it closer to this way towards the price, it increases the APR?
Yeah. So that's the result of like the concentrated liquidity feature of V3. So the way to conceptualize fees on for liquidity providing is that you are providing a service to the market. You are saying, hey, market, here are coins, my coins. Here are 2 coins that I have, and you are allowed to trade with them. And you're providing a service, one, and you're taking on risk. And the risk you're taking on is impermanent loss, in that whenever a trade occurs, you are always taking the bad side of the trade, just by definition. So you're, by liquidity providing, you're providing a service and you're taking on risk. And to be compensated for those 2 things, you get paid in fees. Now, fees are paid proportional to everybody who's providing liquidity. On V2, that's really easy to calculate because everybody's providing liquidity at every single price equally. So you just distribute it based on the number of tokens that each person has. In V3, it's a little bit harder because some people can provide in range, out of range, etc. And so let's say, for example, Max, you're providing $100,000 of liquidity in a pretty wide range. And then I come in and I provide $10,000 in a much shorter range. Your $100,000 at the current price that the coin is trading at may only have, say, $2,000 of liquidity at that price. So of your $100,000, only $2,000 of it is actively being used for trading. But me, I put all $100K at the price current at the price the coin is currently trading at. And so even though you have more money in the pool, I have more money being actively traded with. And so the only people that get paid other fees are the people with money actively being traded with, because you're providing a service. If your coins aren't servicing anybody, then you don't get compensated. So the tighter you bring it in, the more of your money is being used at the current price to service the market. Therefore, more of the fees that are being earned are going to be going to you, which is why the APR is going up, because you're taking the same amount of money, but you're putting it in a tighter range closer to price.
And that is if you're putting in ranges that other people aren't providing a lot of liquidity at.
Yeah.
Right?
If you do that, or ranges where so the less people providing liquidity, the less competition there is, because fees are finite. They're determined by volume. They're a discrete number, and they're distributed proportionally to people providing liquidity. Well, if there isn't much liquidity there, then the pie, for example, that it's being distributed to is much smaller. So each person gets a larger amount of money. As the pie gets bigger, there's more people, there's more money to distribute that finite number across. So each individual person is going to get less, or it's going to take more money to get the same amount as when the liquidity was smaller.
So in this example, I brought the range pretty tight. And in between 4077 and 4087 in the range DAI per pulse. APR 710%.
Yep.
Now, why doesn't everyone just do that?
Yeah. Mostly because of impermanent loss. So if the price goes above your higher range, the 4 zeros and an 8, you're left completely in DAI. If price goes below 4 zeros and a 7-7, you're completely into Pulse. And Pulse is a volatile asset, so you're like what, plus minus what, 7% is what I saw. Can you hover over it again? Hover over it, yeah. minus 7% plus 5%, right?
Oh,
so
yeah.
Price can move for Pulse because it's crypto and it's a volatile asset more than 7% to the down direction and more than 5% in the up direction in a single day. And so even though the APR of that of the quoted APR is 700%, the question you have to ask yourself is how long are you earning that 700% for? It could be a day, it could be a week, it could be 5 minutes. And let's say you provide it right before Pulse does a massive 10x run up. Well, it's probably not going to your price range ever again. So people bought up all your Pulse, you're left in DAI, you're left out of that 10x price run, and you earn 710% APR, but maybe you only earned it for 2 hours. So it's like, is it really that special that you earn triple-digit APRs for 2 hours? No, not at all, because you didn't earn that much money. Maybe it would have been better to provide a longer range at, say, maybe 30%, but you're earning for a longer period of time. So net, you are earning more money than the person with concentrated liquidity.
Well, the most straightforward strategy just seems to be like, okay, you could go to a pair that you like and look at the APR, try to get, highest APR possible in the tight range, provide it, and then however long it lasts, again, you got to watch it, manage it. And then however long it lasts, it went away, it's out of my range, before it goes too far the other side. Or just, if you got one all Pulse or whatever, you can use that Pulse, go back, buy the piece to start providing with DAI again, whatever you need there. But the point is just chasing the highest APR and just switching around as you need to. Manually, I mean, Red Squirrel, you're coming here, automate V3 positions. It sounds like that would be like a major, major thing that, you just can't do manually unless you literally sit at the computer and do 1 billion transactions per day. The automated way to do it, is that like a huge deal of just being able to literally like automatically select the highest APR and I provide those ranges, switch them around as much as I need to, but still earning just constant 100,000% stuff? Is that like what everyone's trying to get to?
Maybe not what everyone's trying to get to. It's definitely a strategy, and it's a strategy mostly for people who are at their computer a lot. Maybe people with like online businesses, or maybe they're at work and they have access to their computer so they can keep track of these things all day, like they work from home. And so they can work while also monitoring LP positions. That kind of like yield farm, that kind of like fee chasing mentality can work and can make you some money. But there is risk associated with it, because if it goes out of range, you remove your liquidity and then you buy back in, you're technically taking a loss. Well, if the price is going up, you're not taking a dollar value loss, you're taking an impermanent loss. You're realizing your impermanent loss. If your price goes down and you adjust it, then you do end up taking a loss in dollar value, which makes sense because the price is going down. But if you do that too much, you can really start to chop your main bag up, chop your portfolio value up, or whatever you're trading with, and the fees may or may not account for that. And that's the whole thing. Is like, are the fees that you're earning outweighing any kind of like dollar value loss the coins that you're providing liquidity on experience?
I'm coining it now. APR arbitrage. That's what we got to perfect and get going in an automated way. But I mean, it is something that, if you go to sit at the computer, even if you have time to do it and click 1,000 buttons and remove positions and like, okay, sell it back before it goes too far. Yeah, it's a lot of work. And it seems like at that point, you're almost questioning, why am I even providing liquidity? Like, how much am I actually making? Am I just breaking even doing this type of thing? Like, what are the profitable strategies outside of maybe we'll automate that at some point, and it'll be
that can be
easier
a profitable strategy if you're good at it. Like, I probably wouldn't have a position that tight because crypto can move more than that. Does typically move more than that in a day, but maybe like plus minus 50% is like a pretty nice range to have. And if you do that, let's see what it's like. You're earning 100% APR. But 100% APR. And in order for price to go out of your range, and either use to dump 50% or go up 50%, right? And so that happens in a day, but it doesn't happen every day. So usually price does stay within a certain range throughout before there are violent moves up. And so maybe you're taking advantage of that chop movement, and then you remove it if you're able to predict when if it's about to go above or below it. Like that's something that you can do without having to move that small range every single time. Other profitable ways is kind of like this, but maybe you increase it out a little bit more so that you're earning fees over a longer period of time and you just don't have to worry about it. And so when you're earning the fees, the chances that it outweighs any impermanent loss is higher because you're earning them for longer. And then the other way is not necessarily being profitable, but having the impermanent loss work in your favor, and that's like buying and selling with LP. So you want to sell like your pulse at a certain price, so you place it above where the DAI is, and yeah, maybe on paper you're taking a loss because if you held as the price was going up, you would have more money in the first place, but you were trying to sell at that range anyway. So all those fees are kind of like extra. It's like icing on the cake of like people are actually paying you to exit your position. So you got the money that you would have got when you sold plus a little extra because of the fees. And maybe it takes a while for it to move outside of your range, so you earn a lot of fees while doing it.
What about, for example, if we move this down even to 50%, back to 50%, if you look here, you've got to put up, a million pulse, which says around $83 here, but much more DAI. There are a lot of people, for example, another just straightforward thing is, where is the most APR? So like let me put it, like let me get like the 700% or let's see what we got before. Yeah, 400%, 700, somewhere through there. And then, but also I want to make it as almost single-sided. I only want to put up pulse. I don't want to put up DAI. I don't have a DAI. I don't want DAI. I just want to put as much pulse as possible, but earn as much fees, in both as possible. So how far can we get it? How far? So if we go all the way, whoops, not that one. So if we go all the way out here, stop pulling that one. So if we do 110%, $11 a DAI and $83 worth of pulse, still earn 140%. Is there a strategy there where you're like, okay, I got a bunch of pulse, but I don't want to hold DAI, or I don't want to hold whatever. I just want to basically do single-sided, almost like 90-sided, I don't know, 90-10 type of thing. Is that a strategy, or what, is there places to do stuff like that?
You can do it right here. So click that full range button right there. And then click I understand. Okay, now take that 0 and then pull it a little bit, pull it to where you want it to go. Let's see. Yeah, so, keep pulling it. Wherever you want it to be, like before.
$5.
Yeah. So now, what you've done is you're placing all the pulse, that 100,000, that 1 million pulse that you have there. You're placing it from where the price is currently at to infinity. So this is like a half V2 position right now. So you're putting a little bit of DAI in there so that you're earning fees immediately. But for infinitely, as the price goes higher, you will always be earning fees in this position and slowly selling out as the price goes higher. And so this is a way you can take your pulse with a little bit of DAI and basically earn APR for as long as the price is above where you started your position at. If the price goes lower than your lower band, then you're just completely into pulse and you're waiting. But you can keep layering positions on top of it if you want. And then as price goes up, now you're earning fees on all those positions. This is a very common strategy, especially in like the meme coin, low market cap coin space, where you're able to get a lot of the supply pretty early if you're on top of it. So you get a couple whale positions, a couple % of the supply, and then you take some of those coins and you do one of these positions, so that now, if you sold those coins, you'd be destroying the price. But now you're kind of supporting the price as price is going up because you're providing coins to the market for people to buy. People are basically getting you out of your position. They're buying up your position and giving you pulse, usually in the meme coin example. And then you're earning fees that entire time without having to put up more pulse than like what you bought it with, and then for the LP position itself. So it's a strategy that I like as well. If I'm trying to get into a low cap coin pretty early and I just want to set everything up so that I'm profiting from it and feasibly being able to sell out based on like market dynamics.
Is this something you would do? And like you said, you got a bunch of coin, and maybe you can't stake it. There's nothing to do with it other than hold it. You're like, well, is there any way to make money with this coin that's low risk or at my risk tolerance level? Is this what you would first thing you think of?
Yeah, this is a very great way to make some income from your crypto, especially if you're towards the bottom and you think prices just kind of going up from there.
Okay. And would you do it on V3 like this instead of just using, well, I guess the big advantage here is it's basically, it's kind of like a V2 position, but you don't have to put up much of the other side. You don't really have to put up anything in
It's
this
like a
case.
half V2 position. So like you're obviously incurring risk by buying this coin, like a meme coin, in this case Pulse, right? But if you were to do a V2 position, you're taking on more risk because you're providing, in our case, DAI to the market for people to sell their Pulse into. So like you're putting value in, and then you're putting more value up that people can use as exit liquidity, for example. In this scenario, with this half V2 position, the main risk you're taking is the initial capital that you put in. So if the price would go down and out of your range, well, like you'd still be losing money anyway. Like your situation hasn't changed. But now if price is going up, you're going to be slowly scaling out of your position and earning fees. And you did that without having to put much extra risk on the table. So it's just using the volume of the ecosystem that you're in. It's how do I say this? It's hacking into the volume of the ecosystem that you're in and producing fees from that volume. And that's an option that's always available to any coin that's widely traded on DEX. That's mostly traded on DEXs. So if there's volume on the token, there's the ability to earn income with your tokens, and that's through liquidity providing.
So in the situation where, because of a couple scenarios, so one where, okay, let's say you think over time the Pulse price is going down. And then also the other scenario, over time from from today, you think the Pulse price is going up. You think it's just over time, it's going up. Those two different scenarios, how could you capture fees? Like, what are the strategies to capture fees in those two scenarios? Whether you think you have a bag of a coin you think is going up and you're not worried about it for the next 6 months or whatever. You have a bag of a coin you think is going down for the next 6 months and stuff. And you just, for some reason, you don't want to sell it, or you just think that, hey, I just want to make fees. I think there's going to be volume. How would you think about those two different scenarios with V3 or V2 even?
So with V2, you just put the liquidity in, and then you're going to be earning fees. Or you do a full range position that's both on the zero and the infinity side. You'll be earning fees no matter what the price does. However, if you want to do it with V3, a way you could do it is like, okay, I think price is going to go lower. It's going to go about into this range. So for the Pulse DAI pool, maybe I put some DAI at the price where I think it's going to be at. And then when it goes in there, you're earning fees in that range. And when you think it's about to go up, you can pull the position, and now you have some Pulse, and you get to capture the price going up. If you think the price is going higher, you can take some Pulse, put it at that higher price. Then as it gets into your range, you're selling out from Pulse into DAI, and you're earning fees as it's trading. If you think it's about to go down low after that, you can pull the position. So you've sold some of your tokens or all of them. And if you think it's about to go up, you can also pull your position again. So you have some Pulse to experience that upward price momentum.
Is there a way, let's say you have Pulse and you just think that Pulse is going up, but you don't want to lose your Pulse, but you still want to earn fees. Is there a way to do that?
Nope.
Or I guess, what is the way to lose the least amount of Pulse while earning the most amount of fees?
Well, that's so that equilibrium right there. That's the main not problem, but that's the main thing you're trying to solve for your personal situation when you're providing liquidity, because those two things that you talked about are inversely proportional. So the more fees you want to earn, the more Pulse you're risking, or the faster you're going to lose your Pulse. If you were like, if the less Pulse you're risking, the slower you're losing it, the less fees that you're earning. The way you said it was inversely proportional. The way I said it was proportional. But generally, like, those two things are at odds with each other. If you're earning more fees, you're losing more Pulse. If you're earning less fees, you're losing less Pulse. But you get what I'm trying to say. I don't think I said it exactly right, but you get what I'm saying, right? Like, you can't have one. If you maximize one, you're getting the short end of the stick on the other. If you maximize the other, you're getting the short end of the stick on the first one.
So is the compromise just being in the middle? So you still earn fees, but you will lose less Pulse?
Yeah, that would be like a full range position. That's what that would be, or really, really wide, maybe from like minus 50% to like plus 1,000%. So it's like if the thing dumps 50%, you're earning fees, or maybe say minus 80%. 80% dip, you're still earning fees. 10x, you're still earning fees. Yeah.
Gotcha.
Yeah. So but the trade-off is there, like I said before, is you're earning less fees because your coins are spread out over a wider range. But that could be something more in between like a full range position and like a really tight position is like a wide position. Like I'd say not a medium sized one, but a pretty long one. But you're still earning more fees than if you did a full range. So like click the full range again. Let's see what those fees are. So yeah, it's that. Now it's 37%. Okay, so now do minus 80%. Actually, you're going to have to refresh now that I think about it. Yeah, just refresh.
Okay.
So yeah, do minus 80%.
Do we hit full range or no?
No, not now.
Okay.
Yeah, minus 80%. That's fine. And then zoom out. And then bring that to plus 1,000%. So that's a 10x. Or plus 900%. That's a 10x. Yeah, and then pick the pool again. You deposit the deposit amount so you can see how much. Right.
38%.
38%. Now click full range. Let me see what the full range is again. 24%. So by basically putting it within a range that is probably going to stay in for a decent amount of time, many months, you're getting paid an extra 14% APR versus a full range position. And so that could be a way that's like, hey, like I'm losing Pulse's price is going up more slowly, but I'm juicing out an extra 14% APR.
Wow. Yeah, that is interesting. So we did minus 80%, 81%, and then up to 1,000%, and that was 37. But full range from is this?
Yeah,
so
yeah,
would be 24%. Okay.
Yeah,
I think that was the kind of the equilibrium I was looking for. Like, there's got to be like, what is the way, to provide it where it's not full range, but you're taking advantage of not being full range, but also not taking a lot of risk with the position. Okay.
Yeah. There you go. You're welcome, Max.
Okay. I like it.
Glad to provide you content.
I didn't say thank you, but you're welcome.
I know you didn't, but I gave you value, so I'm saying you're welcome.
Is that what you call value these days?
Yes.
You just talked a few words.
At least according to Chud in the chat, he says great explanation. It helps people. So.
Well, since you mentioned the chat, that's just the guy you planted there to say nice things.
It's just me. It's my alt.
Chud. Yeah. When Sloth turned this way and started typing, that's Chud. Shout out to Chud. Good questions, comments. Those are the comments here. Appreciate that. Just joking. Hex Edits is here as well. Tin Top. What's happening, guys? All right, I'm not going through all chat, but
got some cool people in the
people. I think one other thing I wanted to maybe so it's probably interesting for people too. Managing liquidity positions as a provider, maybe a founder, a lot of new coins and stuff. That's like the hot thing. What does it mean to manage a position for price go up? Like what and could you see that? Is it? Yeah. What is it? What are people trying to do when they do that?
Yeah. So that's obviously something every founder wants to do. And I have had people ask me kind of in the background, it's like, hey, like we want to create a coin and we just want to learn a little bit about how to set the LP up to maximize price going up. And one thing I always preface is saying, it doesn't matter like how you provide liquidity. There is no substitute for buyers, people buying and not selling, right? It doesn't matter how you set up the liquidity. If people aren't buying, then your price isn't going up. Like there's nothing you can do from a liquidity standpoint to substitute for that. But there are things that you can do to help facilitate the price go up. And so it's kind of that same balance where you need to provide coins to the market for people to trade on, because if there are no coins to trade, then price can't move in the first place. And so if you're having a lot of people buy these tokens up, you want to have enough coins on the market to service the market, right? Like too low liquidity is a bad thing. Even though price can skyrocket, people are going to be disencouraged to buy as price just moves way higher. Or if you're putting in $100 and moving the price up a 3x, like what are we doing here? Like there's nothing like, yeah, like what are we doing? Like there's no like
3x,
value
that's a
there.
move for ants. That's true.
Yeah, exactly. There's no way to enter or exit a position with any kind of like reasonable size, right? And so as a founder, what you need to do is you need to provide enough liquidity to service the market, but not so much liquidity or so many tokens that one, people outside of the team or people outside of those who have the best interest for the protocol have a lot of the supply, and two, so much that price can no longer move. The second one is not usually as much of a problem, but the first one, people have run into that problem. Well, they'll take all of the token supply, they'll put it in with say like $2,000 to $3,000 worth of Pulse, and then somebody will come in for maybe like another $2,000 to $3,000. They'll bump up the price up like 2 to 3x because they doubled the liquidity. But now they have like 50% of the supply because they did that. And so they essentially own that token. They own that protocol and they own all of the liquidity and they got it for really, really cheap. So as a founder, what you have to do is basically make sure that you're putting enough coins on the market, but not too many. A good strategy is kind of layering in liquidity as price is going up. So it's like you put some in at the beginning, you let people buy it. And as it goes up, you add some more liquidity. As it goes up, you add some more liquidity. So as the price is going up, you're solidifying those moves with more liquidity, and people haven't been able to buy up the majority of the supply. So there's still a decent amount of coins out there for other people to buy. It is to be distributed amongst a larger group of people versus some people coming in, a small group of people coming in early, getting all the supply, and there's only a little bit left for everybody else.
So it's trying to find a balance between, you want there to be enough supply to service the market, however, making that proportional to when buys happen. I guess, is it certain ranges too? You want to put it in certain ranges where, okay, well, yeah, and I was just thinking of that, of like strategically putting it in certain places where when the buys do hit those ranges, I mean, so as price goes up, people are able to get it, but they kind of got to move the price up to get more supply, that sort of deal.
Exactly. So it's like, as a founder, one question you can ask yourself is, what do I think is a fair price to offer these coins at? And so you can start the price wherever you plan to start it, because maybe you want to have some green candles at the beginning. That's always nice to have a nice chart that goes really, really fast, really up really fast. It looks nice and it's desirable. But maybe it's like maybe 4 to 5x above the price is where you think there's like a fair value for these coins. So you'll take a percentage of supply and place it in a V3 range at that price range that you think is fair for more people to enter in. So the people who get in early get a benefit because they're getting a lot of price go up. And then there's a liquidity block that's like, okay, like this is a price where if more people want to get in, more people can get in. There's more coins here for people to get in at this price. The trade-off is you're going to be slowing down price at that range. But if there's enough buyers, you can eat through it and continue going higher.
Is the managing portion sort of like the staircase of moving the ceiling up, that kind of thing?
Yep, that's another thing. So say you put this position in and it becomes all pulse afterwards, and the prices continue going up. Well, you can trail that pulse higher and higher and higher as the price goes up, so that all of that pulse is now backing the price, but at a higher price, backing the value of the token, but at a higher price. There's a trade-off to that, and that is it takes less of the tokens to be able to drain that pulse. But if like you got a lot of tokens distributed, well, let me think. Actually, yeah. So you get a lot of people distributed. You get a lot of tokens distributed at that lower price, and then you price goes higher, and then you move it up. Well, now the people who bought those tokens at that lower liquidity range can drain that entire pulse pool at a higher price, or it takes less of them to drain it because those tokens are worth more money at those higher prices. So there is some risk associated with that. But a lot of the times, people who are also buying these things are like founders or people who have like a longer term mentality for the project. So it's kind of like calculating out like, okay, who are potential sellers and who are people who are looking to hold for longer or let this thing go up higher. Like that's kind of like the calculus you have to start running.
Long term, that's like 6 months, right?
Exactly. Maybe 6 weeks. But hey, we're in crypto, baby.